Elkhorn Road. Am I supposed to be doing this?
Gina.
Okay, go ahead, man.
So what we have is a public hearing on the 4B Corporation. We're going to go over two new projects. One of them is the Louisville Rodeo Arena and the related facilities. We did talk about this last week or 2 weeks ago at the meeting for the budget discussion. As we talked about, there are current issues out there that need to be addressed. They're estimated to cost $835,000 as we discussed, and we'll be looking that over again prior to expending that entire sum as we talked about. Right now, we've got the arena stand and the fencing at the site, as well as the announcing stand. Those are $45,000, $130,000, and $35,000. We've got the electric wiring and lights, the arena fencing itself, and the concession stands. And then the final big ticket item is the restroom building. And again, we'll be looking at that to figure out if we need to build one or if we're going to just move one or if it's going to be an actual slab or not. So the total commitment there for all of the items is $835,000. We were able to address some of that funding through the park development fee and recreation fund. So we've got currently $360,000 funded, and the 4B fund will pick up the other $475,000.
Council, I might let you know that the Saddle Club has transferred now all of the ownership to the city at this point. And we do plan to appoint a task force. We're going to make it through the Labor Day Rodeo. We're going to do the minimum we can to get that safe and operational. And then we're going to try to get a task force with some expertise, somebody that knows bull riding, somebody that really knows the rodeo arenas, and really try to maximize that money to make the improvements that we can so that we can better utilize this facility.
Donna, what kind of revenue you're looking to pull in from that on an annual basis, or what was it doing?
That's a very difficult question. So what we would hope is more regular events. So certainly you would continue the rodeo event itself, but then you would have, if it's built properly, you might do bull riding, type events, different types of Western, different types of horsemanship events. And then there could be dog shows and other type of outdoor type events. So we're going to look at it broadly to try to do as much as possible.
Do you have a record of what they did in the past?
What the Saddle Club, we do. James, do you know that?
Somewhat. We have their attendance figures. We don't have very accurate revenue figures.
I will tell you, because I usually do attend the event annually, and I think it's well attended. It's a 3-day event. I think we have a nice crowd that attends. We did collect data for a few years related to where those attendees came from. The last year or two, we didn't get that data. Correct, James? So they come from around the Metroplex. You would be surprised. It's not all just Louisville. So
You're pretty optimistic.
we would work very hard to improve that.
Okay. The second item that we talked about last meeting was the park planner development manager. This is a new position that we're funding out of 4B, working with Stacy, our parks director, on all things construction related to trails, recreation amenities, parks. A few of the things that they've already got scheduled for this position are the Valley Vista property, Lake Park, annual upgrades to our existing parks, the trail system, a wayfinding signage system, the large open spaces, anything sustainable there they'll be working on, as well as our small area plan implementation. So those are just some of the things that they're already scheduled to be working on. But throughout the life of this position, they'll monitor capital improvements, grants, and all your park development, park dedication, and tree mitigation funding. Handling all of the in-house design for all of our parks projects, medians, things like that throughout the city.
When you talk about projects associated with small area plans, where's the line on that? Where do they stop
So
doing work?
it'd probably be the nature of the project. So some projects like some of the tree plantings and things and the design, I think that could probably be done in-house. in-house. So that's, one of the issues here is that right now we have to go and hire a planner every time for some pretty routine type projects. So hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more of those type projects in-house.
Okay.
Depends on the complexity of the project.
So are you thinking green space primarily is their role for a small area plan, or would they be working on sign topper designs and entryways and some non-organic kinds of things? I'm just curious.
I would say more green space, more park related. When you
Okay.
start getting into street toppers and some of those issues, that's not necessarily park related. Is that accurate?
You use the language, the life of this position. How long do we see this?
This is an ongoing position that we'll have, just as we defend any other position, so I would assume it will be ongoing for the near future.
Okay.
So those are the two projects that we had to talk about for the public hearing tonight, and so that is all we need to do.
Okay, no action to be taken?
Sir.
Okay, we don't have anything else?
Need to close the public hearing.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Public hearing is closed. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
And Louisville Fire Control Prevention and Emergency Medical Service District Board. This is a joint meeting, and we do have a quorum present. First item on the agenda is a public hearing to review and adopt the fiscal year 2019 Louisville Fire Control Prevention Emergency Medical Services District budget.
So just to say, this information was presented to you at the last meeting.
Yes.
Unless there's questions, we didn't plan to do a presentation of the same material this evening.
Okay.
I have.
It says review and adopt, but
Yeah, all we, if there are no questions, then we can move to adopt the.
okay.
as
Okay,
presented.
entertain a motion to adopt the
You need
budget.
to close the
I'm
public
sorry,
hearing.
close public
Sorry.
hearing.
Move close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the budget.
Move to approve the budget.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any no opposed? Motion carries. Second item is public hearing to review and adopt the Fire Crime and Prevention District budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. So, any
Same-
comments? Same scenario, so.
Same scenario, yes, sir.
Okay, so,
Move to close?
Second.
motion to close the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Motion to approve and adopt.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed, motion carries. Motion closed.
Move close.
Thank you.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, closed. Thank you.
Let's go.
Well, except we did it twice.
Reuse that for next time. Yeah.
Better off than that.
First chapter. No nods.
Can we move forward with this?
6:30.
Thank you.
Got 5 minutes. First item of business is the invocation given by Mayor Pro Tem Jones, followed by the pledges to the American Texas flag by myself, then presentation. And Julie, who does this say? Oh, you and I are gonna do this.
You and I, yep.
Okay. Presentation of reappointed and newly appointed members of boards, commissions, and committees. Followed by public hearings, item 1. Anything?
So Mary, you didn't, you skipped the workshop. That's okay, we can go out of order.
I was just moving forward.
It's up to you, sir. We do have that queued up.
Go ahead, let's go. Sorry about that. I was ready to get moving.
I figured y'all were ready to go, and I was just, anyway, good evening, Mayor, Council, water and sewer fans. We're here to talk about love it when it works. Land use assumptions, water and sewer master plan, and impact fee updates. You know, I'm gonna use the keyboard because I always mess that up. So, just kind of what are impact fees? Impact fees, also known as capital recovery fees, we use that term here in Louisville. They're essentially fees paid by developers or home builders to offset the cost of city infrastructure that's necessary to provide the capacity to serve those new developments. Fees can be assessed for water, wastewater, and roadway impact fees. Here in Louisville, we do not assess roadway impact fees, just water and wastewater. Fees are collected at the time of building permit issuance. And then Texas Local Government Code Section 395 prescribes the method that we must use to update our impact fees. They must be reviewed and updated every 5 years, and we use a 10-year look-ahead planning period. And then the study produces a maximum amount that the city can charge, and you as the council can decide to set a lower number should you choose to do that. What can those fees be used for? They can be used for construction, surveying, engineering, land acquisition, capital improvement updates, financing costs for eligible projects so we can pay that debt service out of impact fees. What they can't be used for, they can't be used for construction, acquisition, or expansion of facilities not identified on the capital improvement plan. They can't be used for repair, operation, or maintenance of existing improvements, and they can't be used for improvements to meet the needs of existing development. So if I want to replace an aging line, I can't use impact fees to replace it unless I'm upsizing it and increasing the capacity to serve other development, and then I can only use those dollars that are associated with that capacity improvement. And I also can't pay for administration and operating costs of the city out of impact fees. So we started in I think it might have been 2016 when we started, but bulk of it was 2017, but our 2018 land use assumptions, and that's often the first step in an impact fee update, is looking at the population growth, those projections, the employment projections, and then we figure out, do we have enough capacity, or how much additional capacity do we need to serve those folks? We update the water and sewer master plan to ensure that adequate service delivery. In 2011, our master plans were updated based on a build-out population of 186,400. The May 2018 land use assumption projects a 2028 population of 152,864, and then a total build-out of 163,162. So our projected population is actually lower than it was in 2011. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward. We use Freese & Nichols, engineering and planning firm, to perform the land use updates, and then Richard Lupke and the planning department really led that effort. They went through all of the known development plans, the small area plans, corridor redevelopment plans, and worked directly with Freese & Nichols to ensure that they incorporated those plans in. And then those areas in the city where we still have vacant land, but no detailed plan for that land yet, we use the maximum density that could take place under the current zoning of that property, and essentially came up with a total population projected at build out, and again in that 10-year period. We used a little bit different method, and I know Richard is here, so if you have any more specific questions for the land use, he'd be happy to assist. But Freese & Nichols use these traffic survey zones, which is a method that the North Central Texas Council of Governments uses for all of their service area. And it allows them to better track all of the population using those traffic survey zones. So it broke the city into all of these smaller sections, and then within each section, there's a tabular format that's got the estimated 2017 population and employment projection, employment existing plus population projections and employment projections for the 10-year planning period, and then again for the maximum build out. And calculating all that arrives at that 163, 162 for that total build-out population. It's interesting looking at each of those traffic survey zones and seeing where they are and where that population projection is, where those increases in density is really happening. You see on the right the population estimates, that existing population of 120,624. That seems like a larger number than it should be. It's because it includes that Castle Hills ETJ in that population number. As does all of the projections include that already existing development out there in Castle Hills.
That was one of my questions here. How did our build-out population drop by 23,000?
So a couple of things happened. One, some of the property that in 2011 we thought might come to Louisville ended up going to Carrollton, so some of that development is adding to their population. And then as we built out additional area from that, really it's the last time we did a full in-depth analysis was 2006. So they did some projections in 2011 that turned out we were expecting more density than what we've actually seen happen. So,
More realistic.
Another thing, Councilman, that about 2014, we did in East Louisville, we took it to the retreat, we did an East Louisville build out of those subdivisions, Kings Grant, and those areas around north and in east and west, around Castle Hills, and we also took Castle Hills district by district, did an assumption there, so we had an East Louisville and a Castle Hills estimate 1415, which was a little more accurate at that time, and it was this was done prior to that, so that 186 was somewhat of a
Projection.
pretty aggressive projection. It probably wasn't as realistic as it needed to be.
We just know more now.
when you think about it, more unknown means we want to project more, right? We're looking at what capacity do we have to serve that. So estimating a bigger number back then was a safer approach to ensure we had capacity. So we boiled all those numbers down into a percentage growth, and then we applied that percentage growth to our water max hour demand and our wastewater average daily flow numbers. So those are the numbers that we use to project out the needs in the master plan. Those numbers flow into some engineering calculations. What we've looked at up to this point has been done by the planning folks. Now we're transitioning into the engineering folks who prepared the water and wastewater master plans. And that was the engineering firm of Burkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter. So the water master plan, again, developed based on that build-out population to ensure adequate capacity exists in our ability to treat, store, and deliver an adequate supply of drinking water and fire suppression water. That's another important aspect of it. The majority of our capacity needs in both water and wastewater are in the East Louisville, Castle Hills, Austin Ranch areas. Those are the areas where there's the greatest amount of development that's still to take place. And those capacity needs are treatment, storage, and distribution, primarily over on that side of the city. I've got the 2011 master plan in here just as a point of reference. It's hard to see up there, but the 2018 draft, again, these are draft documents. We've yet to receive the final documents. So, but these are projecting everywhere you see a red line is a distribution line. A lot of distribution kind of on the south side of the city where there's still some commercial development to take place. Some along the corporate drive projection, and then much of the east Louisville, Castle Hills, Austin Ranch area. What you see here is incorporates all of those new projects, and then it also incorporates the blue lines are existing projects where there's capacity that was built previously to serve this projected population. So we can recover some of those already expended funds when that capacity is utilized by this growth. So the consultant compiled all of those projects and took those and created a cost, both the existing cost, so of 117 million that we spent, 16 million of those existing funds can be or will be utilized during this 10-year planning period, so that is recoverable under this model. And then projected cost of an additional 32 million, of which they're saying 29 million of that will be directly recoverable during this 10-year planning period. Most of the proposed is again in distribution lines. We do have 2 ground storage tanks under the facilities, and we have additional treated water capacity that in this study is coming from Dallas Water Utilities as a purchase. So the dollars that are in there is the demand charge for 10 additional million gallons per day at $276,000 annually per million gallons per day. So those are the numbers that are in that. We come up with a total of 45 million, almost $46 million on the water side. What this chart shows you, it's kind of convoluted, but it's projecting the number of water meters of each size out at that same growth percentage to come up with the new living unit equivalents. So a single 3/4 inch water meter is 1 living unit equivalent, and they're projecting a growth of 8,779 LUEs in this period. So in order to calculate the impact fees, you simply take and divide those 2 numbers. This was that existing infrastructure value that we can recover. This is the proposed divided by that 8,779 of those living unit equivalents. Comes up with a calculated fee of $52.29. The way the local government code is set up is you can charge up to that maximum amount if you jump through a number of hoops in terms of tracking those expenditures and whatnot. They give you an option to simply charge at that 50% of that maximum fee, and that's what most communities do, is they set their rate somewhere at or below that 50%. So our water impact fee in this calculation comes out to $2,614.89 per LUE, living unit equivalent. Run into the wastewater master plan here real quick and stop me if I run out of time.
Okay.
Again, the same population projection as we previously talked about. Here we have to collect, convey, and treat all of the wastewater within our service area, which today our service area for wastewater does include Castle Hills. The majority of our capacity needs here are in conveyance and treatment. And again, much of it is associated with East Louisville, Castle Hills, Austin Ranch areas, in the continuing development of those properties. This again is the 2011 wastewater master plan. I've got a circle over here on that East Louisville, Castle Hills, because there are significant changes in this area under the proposed 2018 master plan. What you saw in that 2011 master plan was 4 lift stations, one of them owned by Castle Hills, owned and operated. One of them proposed here to intercept sewer coming from East Louisville, pump it past Castle Hills and over to our treatment plant. Another one here to capture some additional Louisville flow, and then this main Midway Branch lift station. The model here was to avoid our wastewater flowing through Castle Hills. Right now, we have a meter station right about where this lift station shows to be. We meter how much water we send into Castle Hills. We have another meter down here that meters how much total, and we deduct ours from their bill. So our goal under this plan was to stop being a pass-through, stop passing through Castle Hills. As the annexation of that property gets closer and closer, it makes less sense to us to implement that change. So what we've done is we've eliminated the lift station up here. As we take ownership of Castle Hills infrastructure, we will have to rebuild their lift station to increase the capacity to accept all of the development upstream of them, which will actually require some parallel collection lines we've eliminated this second lift station over here, and we've increased the size a little bit of the Midway Branch lift station. So we've gone from 4 lift stations proposed to 2, one of them being an existing station that needs to be rebuilt. Cost-wise, capital cost, it's about the same. It's a wash to do it this way versus the other way. Operation and maintenance will be much simplified to have 2 lift stations instead of 4. So we've made that significant change here. The other thing that's happened is we are showing a capacity need of at least 3 additional MGD treatment capacity, million-gallon-a-day treatment capacity at the wastewater plant. And then we do show up here in the Tower Bay area some additional development-related capacity needs up there. So those are the significant changes from the 2011 master plan. What you see up here, again, the red is the proposed infrastructure. The green are projects that were built where there's still dollars that we can recover because of that capacity utilization during this planning period. There's a lot of green on that page, but when you come down here and you look, it's $101 million worth of projects, only less than 9 million of which we can recover. So even though it's a lot of lines on that page, it's less than 10% of the value of that work is still out there available for recovery under this model.
Mayor, you might want to do a review of the agenda, and then
Okay.
we can finish up after the regular session.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we'll go ahead and move over to the regular agenda, and we'll start back where we were a while ago. Public hearings, item 1. Then the consent agenda, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, just shout out if you have anything.
Mayor, on number 5, we're gonna need to pull that.
And that's because it's not ready.
It's because the Corps of Engineers has come back and had some questions about whether they're gonna approve this, so we need to deal with the Corps.
Okay.
One division of the Corps has a different opinion than the lake part of the Corps.
One is pro shaved ice,
Real
the other is
estate.
con.
Well, real estate had a different view of it than the lake staff. So we'll work through it, bring it back to you.
Item 6, item 7. Regular hearings, item 8.
Council, if you looked at the backup memo with this item, you'll see that staff's major concern with pouring a concrete parking lot is the fact that it's located in a floodplain. And we think that that would be difficult to maintain that concrete over time. So we looked at a more green type of solution, which would likely be recycled asphalt. David, do you want to add anything to that?
And the main thing really is like in the event of a flood event like we had a few years ago, replacing that recycled asphalt would be much faster and much less expensive.
Is there any issue with that asphalt though getting washed down?
It probably won't be asphalt, it'll be, could be a recycled concrete or
Some of it being,
flex base, which would be a natural rock material, is actually what we use.
okay.
Recycled asphalt was an option, but we decided not to do that at this time.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, item 9.
So we have worked with the Main and Mill Group on the makeup of this task force. If you remember, they came and talked to you at the April workshop and requested the appointment of this group that would look at the Old Town brand. And so as we worked with them, we thought it was important to get a variety of different perspectives involved in this committee. And so as you look at the list, we have Old Town residential developers, people who actually have built things in Old Town. We have commercial developers, a commercial broker that has a number of properties through the Old Town area, Old Town Center business retail members, Old Town district businesses that are the broader area in Old Town, entertainment-related businesses, and then one Old Town resident, Kristen Green. And Kristen also is your chair of your PNC and on the 2025 committee. So we have contacted each one of these members, and they all have agreed to serve.
So what kind of cost outcomes are we looking for this particular?
So do you mean the cost of the?
Well, whatever their, I guess I'm a little unclear on the end result here. We have city branding for Old Town. We have a Main and Mill group that is doing branding for Old Town. We've got and I don't know if that's the Main and Mill group or the new Old Town group that's on Facebook that's doing their stuff. I mean,
And what you just described is really the issue that we're trying to deal with. Because you have the city out here and we're working in one direction, you have the Main and Mill group, and they may not always be working in the same direction. We need to come together and look at this broadly and decide on what is the best brand for Old Town. So what you'll see in your proposed budget document is money to bring in a third-party consultant to do a full study and work with the committee. And so I would say this is gonna be a 6 to 9 month process to really step back and look at what is that brand, who are we today? And so I think in the end, it's gonna be very good for city staff as well as the Main and Mill group.
I'm just curious what the ask is gonna be at the end of all this.
The ask is gonna be a new brand, and so with a new brand is gonna come all those costs, signage, you could get, marketing materials that would need to change, but it will have impacts. It's just like when the city brand changed.
Right.
And so, and there's options on how you implement it. You can do an all-out, implementation where you do a big rollout and a kickoff, and that usually costs more. You can kind of do it over time.
And then who puts this messaging out and controls it once it's created?
Well, I think we were gonna agree to do that jointly with Main and Mill, but the city would abide by, normally, when you go through a branding type process, you're gonna come up with the brand and the color scheme, and we all agree to that.
Design standards, language standards,
and
all of
everything,
that.
and as a group, we're gonna agree that this is what it is. And so hopefully both groups would abide by that.
Fair enough, thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes.
I'm going back one. Do we know what the mural's gonna be on the building, or is that, I couldn't find it anywhere in the.
No, they do not actually have.
You don't have a,
At this point in time, they do
Okay.
not. They have an artist, James, that they're working with. Yes, is Amanda?
I can answer that
Yeah,
if you
okay.
like. We do have a selected artist. It's Art Lab 3000, which is the one that did the J2. It's gonna revolve around arts and entertainment. We've had 2 design meetings, and they're gonna come back, and we're gonna actually have like actual visuals and some things at our next meeting, which I believe is at the end of August. So it's revolving around arts and entertainment, more forward-thinking than trying to capture our history, if you will. We're kind of using our history as more descriptor words, as like community. This was a place where everybody centrally gathered, things along those lines.
And it'll be approved by the OT.
Old Town Design Review, yes.
That's it for that. I think the next item is reports and closed session. Closed session tonight.
No closed session tonight.
We will reconvene at 7 o'clock in 5 minutes in the council chamber.
Seven o'clock, we'll call tonight's meeting to order. First item of business is the invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Jones, followed by the pledge to the American and Texas flag by myself.
Please rise for a moment of silent contemplation. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
You know it's coming.
Yep.
You know it's coming. I purposely get slow. I heard that.
When I call your name, if you can please come down. James Davis has been appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission in place number 7. Kristen Green to the Louisville 2025 Advisory Board in place number 6. Dr. Tracy Gardner Petaway to the Arts Advisory Board in place number 6. Francesca Al Whaley to the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1 Board of Directors place number 2. Mary Ellen Mixka to the Planning and Zoning Commission to place number 3. John Dalveg to Park Board to place number 4. William Meredith to the Planning and Zoning Commission, place number 1. Denise Shepard to Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee to place number 4. Jennifer Lindy to the Library Board, place number 2. You are very focused.
I'm extremely focused.
Thank you very much. Do you have a deal to put there?
Yes. That's why I'm such a great library board member, because I'm focused.
That's it, thank you.
That's right.
Audrey Kleminski to Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, place number 6. Audra also is on Zoning Board of Adjustment, alternate number 2.
The 2 of them. Thank you. I still need to get a hold of you on that. I still have it in my email.
Sheila Taylor Clark to Louisville Housing Finance Corporation, place number 2.
Is that the deal you need to put right there?
Right here.
That'll do it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nika Kaz Akopala to Louisville 2025 Advisory Board, place number 2.
Did you get close?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Karen Locke to Louisville 2025 Advisory Board, place number 8. And Planning and Zoning Commission, place number 5.
Okay, that's both of them. Thank you.
Before we do the oath, have we missed anyone that's here tonight to be sworn in? Okay, if you all raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully execute. State your board. Of the city of Louisville. State of Texas. And will to the best. Of my ability. Preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution. And laws. Of the United States. And of this state. And the charter. And ordinances. Of this city. And I furthermore. Solemnly swear. That I have not directly. Or indirectly. Paid. Offered. Or promised to pay. Contributed. Nor promised. To contribute. Any money. Or valuable thing. Or promise. Any public office. Or employment. As a reward. To secure my appointment. So help me God. Congratulations.
Two rows, and if you're the ones that are always in the front row, you know who you are. So it's gonna be 2 rows. Thinks I'm taking a video, I'm really not. There we go.
Public hearing number 1. Consideration of an ordinance granting a special use permit for a truck parking lot on 3.612 acres located on the east side of Railroad Street, approximately 2,400 feet south of State Highway 121 business. The applicant plans to pave the parking lot and construct a small office building supporting the commercial truck parking lot. P&Z recommended approval by a vote of 6-0. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption. We have Richard Lukey, Planning Director, available for questions.
Is there anybody else to speak? Okay.
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second?
We have a motion, second, to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion to approve and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, just briefly, I am so excited to see this. I know it's crazy, but we actually have quite a few folks that they make their living in long and short haul trucking. And it's very difficult to find good, safe parking for those vehicles. So you end up with them in residential neighborhoods and other locations. So I'm really pleased that we were able to get this put together and provide that resource so that we don't have to be chasing trucks around in our neighborhoods, and we give those folks a place to put them. So good job on the planning department. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Good note. Any other discussion on that? Okay, Counselor?
This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by granting a special use permit for a truck parking lot on approximately 3.612 acre tract of land out of the John H. Haven Survey Abstract Number 541, located on the east side of Railroad Street, approximately 2,400 feet south of State Highway 121 business and zoned heavy industrial district, providing for repeal or severability penalty and an effective date and declaring an emergency.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Next item is Visitor Citizen Forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. Mayor, I've received no cards.
Okay,
Next item is consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. Mayor, I've received no cards.
okay,
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda with the removal of item number 5.
good.
So that the city staff can work with the business.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor with all the items except number 5?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Item 5.
Yeah, we're pulling it.
No action.
Do I have to read it? Okay. Do I have to vote to pull it at all? Okay, we're done then on that one.
Agenda item 8. Consideration of a variance to section 6-161 off-road street parking and loading requirements, general provision at 1150 Hebron Parkway. A canoe and kayak launch site is proposed at this location. Staff is requesting a variance to allow vehicle parking and access on an unpaved surface. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the variance as set forth in the caption. Jeff Kelly, Assistant City Engineer, is available for any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second to approve as presented? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Number 9.
Appointment of Old Town Branding Task Force. At the April 23, 2018 special workshop, City Council directed that a task force be appointed to work with city staff on development of an Old Town brand. All individuals being recommended have agreed to serve on the task force. The recommendation is that the City Council appoint the task force as set forth in the caption. Amanda Ferguson has submitted a card in support of this item. Mayor, would you like me to read the names of those that are recommended?
Yes, please.
From the Old Town residential developers, Robbie Ray Manny from Brownstones on Walters and Jason Rose from Catherine Commons. For Old Town commercial developer / commercial broker, Justin Springfield, Old Town Development, and Robert Massey from Metrocom Realty. For Old Town Center Business Retail, Cynthia Deerberger from Flourish Floral and Gifts, and Amanda Ferguson from We Plus You. For the Old Town District businesses, Heather Cicirello from Community Bank of Texas, and Corey Walker from A Living Canvas. For the Old Town Entertainment related businesses, Natasha Duhart from Witherspoon Distillery, Amy Fannin from Old Town Wine House, Carrie Murray from J2 Steakhouse, and Rhonda Evans from Perk Coffee House. From the Old Town resident, Kristen Green.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the list. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you all for serving on that. Down to reports now. Nika.
Mayor, council members, park fans, just a reminder that this Friday at 10 a.m. we have the groundbreaking at Thrive, the largest CIP project in city history. It's at 1950 South Valley Parkway at Memorial Park.
Okay, Chief? Okay.
Mayor, we had coffee with cops tomorrow morning at the Louisville Estates. That's at 800 College Parkway, and that will be from 8:30 to 10.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, the lake's 2.2 feet below the conservation pool.
Okay, thanks.
I have a couple of items. One of them is we currently have a budgeting input tool on our city's website. So if you go to the city's website and there's a red banner across the top of the web page, if you click on that link, you'll be able to participate in our budget input tool to help us decide how we should fund our 2018-19 budget. So I encourage all of our residents and our council to go out and take a look at that. That'll be available through August 8th, and we will provide the results of that at the budget workshop scheduled for August 11th. The second item I wanted to talk about with the residents especially is the updated city's dashboard. If you go to metrics.cityoflouisville.com, you'll be able to see a landing page that better narrates our performance dashboard with updated highlighted metrics, as well as kind of explanation of how and why we use those metrics. We've spent a lot of time working on those and making them a little bit more user-friendly, so I encourage you to go out and take a look at those.
Thank you. Mayor? Okay.
We're gonna have a string of really hot days, so if you know of anybody that does not have air conditioning, please check on them and make sure that they're okay, and stay hydrated.
Okay. Nothing, Mayor? TJ?
Along with those two great new tools on the website, I would recommend, if you can, get over to the news section of the City of Louisville website and check out the Community Grants Division seeking input on community needs. There's a link there where you can give input. I see people all the time make comments about what they'd like to see as far as social services or groups that maybe need to be in the city or organizations. This is how we help with those organizations from a city perspective. So we really need resident input on what to prioritize here. So if you can, take a minute, hop on there and read about it and send your feedback on how we would budget that or how you'd like to see it budgeted. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Nothing? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Straw for the MCL Grand activities. Sounds of Louisville Summer Concert Series presented by the city continues with Dancing Dream tomorrow evening, which is an ABBA tribute band, and then on the 24th, Memphis Soul Motown Band, and then on the 31st, King George, which was here last year. He was here last year, did a good job. It's a George Strait tribute. And then coming up on the 21st is Marty Haggard, tribute to my dad. He looks like his dad, and I understand he sounds like his dad, so for Haggard fans, it'll probably be a great concert. Acting Studio Productions is going to do 6 performances of Annie Jr. starting July 26th and continuing through July 29th. Keep Louisville Beautiful continues its Garden Secrets classes with weeds and watering on July 19th. And the Visual Arts League always has their acoustic jam on Fridays. And this past Friday, for those who joined us, they have a quarterly songwriter challenge where they throw out a word or phrase and tell people to write a new song and perform it for the first time ever in public. And we probably had about 70 people at different times, never less than about 50 people that came and stayed for the concert. So I thought it went really well. We'll definitely want to do it again if the weather's nice, and I appreciate the MCL Grand staff for all they did to make that happen. We have yoga in the plazas on Wednesdays and Pilates in the plaza on Thursdays and Saturdays. The John Koch solo exhibit called Black and White continues at the MCL Grand Gallery through the 28th. And the annual Visual Arts League's Fresh Ideas Juried Show for 2018 opens on August 4th in the main gallery. And that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor, City Secretary, Officer, thank you for your service to the community. So, and we did have also the 2018 Health Fund report. That's in the backup, wasn't there?
It's there.
Okay.
We can respond to any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Now,
We return to workshop.
to the works we'll go, and then follow it with the executive session.
No executive.
Okay, we're gonna go into workshop now, back and continue where we were at earlier, and then we will finish up from there. It doesn't flow yet.
Asked one additional city further down from the top on the water side. Wastewater impact fee, our existing fee, our current fee is $2,724 for LUE. puts us at the second highest of our comparison cities. And then our proposed of 4,045, not proposed, but calculated 4,045 puts us all the way at the top of our comparison cities. I want to note that some of these comparison cities do not charge an impact fee. The process, we don't have to do this. Like I said earlier, we don't do roadway impact fees. Other cities do. As we get closer and closer to being built out, and our land becomes less and less desirable to develop, right? The less desirable stuff is what gets left over. We're really going to have to look at how does this cost of development impact the opportunity for people to come in and develop. And then we look at, you know, how much of that capacity in our system is still there to serve additional development. Some of these cities are built out, they're redeveloping, sure, but they're not getting much revenue from their impact fees, so they've opted not to collect them anymore. I've got this slide up here to show you where our water rates are, and we are very low in comparison to the region. This table is put together by Dallas Water Utilities, and these cities on the chart are only DWU customers, so you don't see some of the ones up there that you saw on the other slide. But the point here is, well, our impact fees may be higher than many. Our water rates are lower than most, and so we've got a balancing act there a little bit. A little bit about the budget impact of, so historically, the last 5 years, our water impact fee, our wastewater impact fee totals a little over $12 million that we've collected over those 5 years. We also, in certain developments, we choose to create economic development agreements, incentives to developers, and some of those incentives include us reimbursing or rebating those impact fees as an incentive for that developer to come in. And so over that same 5-year period, we've actually reimbursed $836,000 in impact fees. And then, you know, as we talked about earlier, those impact fees aren't collected until you come and get a building permit. So we still have another $835,000 out there in reimbursement that we will make when those developers come in or builders come in and actually receive their building permit. So 12 million, 1.6 million of that rebated. So we're what is that, 10%, 15, 12% probably. So we do collect a significant amount of revenue here. The last bullet point, if we were to say, hey, we want to do away with impact fees altogether, and we want to go back and we want to add that to the water bill of all of our existing customers, to collect $2 million per year, it would be about a 7% rate increase on that water bill. So this information here in this chart is the same on the water side as what you saw earlier, just a different format where the actual numbers are shown versus the bar. So on the water side, our current rate is at $3,165 per LUE, and the calculated is at $2,614. So that's actually a reduction of $551 per LUE on the water side. You know, we think that's going to be beneficial for development, right? People will see that has decreased, and we're recommending that be what you adopt on the water side, or rounding to the 2614 rather than the cents, obviously. On the wastewater side, we've got a little bit different situation. Our current is at 2724, and our calculated is 4,045. We're a little bit concerned about the impact that increase might have on development. We certainly could use that, but we would then be the highest of our 16 comparison cities. It's within your ability to adopt something lower than that, right? So we actually are recommending that you consider sticking with the current wastewater impact fee per LUE, so that 2724. You know, when we talked about the budget earlier and we talked about the wastewater plant capacity improvements and that cost. You know, I said that seems high to me. We budgeted those dollars at a lower amount than what they're saying in the impact fee. And so we're thinking that there's very little budget risk to us to adopting a lower impact fee than what we could. The flip side is staying where we're at and then lowering the water should make us more attractive for those developers to come and develop in the city. So our recommendation is to stay with that 2724, but obviously y'all have the opportunity as the governing body to decide differently. Next step, so I mentioned earlier, I've just got draft at this point. I need to receive the final reports from our consultants. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff in the law about this that once we receive the final report, it triggers some time hacks and there's a series of things that need to be done. So after we've had this meeting, we'll circle back with the consultant, let them know if there's any feedback, and then we'll accept those reports. Then we'll go to City Council, we'll come back and ask you to pass a resolution calling for a public hearing. We also have an advisory board, the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. We will make a very similar presentation to them, get their comments and feedback to you in a timely fashion. And then we will conduct the public hearing at the council level, and then we will pass an ordinance that basically adopts a new impact fee. That ordinance, the law requires us to read that 3 times, so we'll have a series of readings on that. And then we'll begin assessing the new fees, very likely in the timeframe of January of 2019. And then those new fees will be assessed on properties platted after the effective date of the new ordinance. So if you come in and you've got a building permit, you're not paying the impact fees based on what we do tonight. It's based on what was in effect at the time that your property was.
In your proposed budget, the impact fees amount to about 6.5% of your revenues. And that is calculated at the rates that are in place now. Obviously, that water rate's dropping slightly, but remember, these are always estimated projects that are occurring, and usually we have more projects that come on than we estimate, because we're very conservative in that. So I don't really see any concerns with the impact on the budget.
We have to answer any questions?
So the professional opinion is that 53 million is high.
So one of the things that we have in our CIP plan is a master plan for the wastewater plant. Karen here is our manager over the plants. And until we have we have no design right now for that capacity expansion. So they're using an estimate. Again, I told you $10 per million gallons is how they're doing that. If we had a master plan that actually showed a layout and we could start calculating true costs based on run of pipe, length of amount of concrete, that sort of thing, I would be much more comfortable with that. And I think it would come down a little bit. I think would happen. Of course, with the construction cost escalation and stuff, that's just kind of crazy. I didn't tell them to bring it down for the report. I told them I think it's high. We could have them bring their number down and recalculate this, but since y'all have the ability to simply adopt a lower number, that's really, I think, a better recommendation.
I don't like that as an accountant. If the cost can go down, that's great. So, we're starting higher and get to a more realistic number. It should be lower. I'm fine with that estimate.
So we will come back, with an ordinance drafted, based on these recommendations is what we do. Excellent.
What else we need to do here?
That's it, Mayor.
Okay, can we close in here, or we already, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
A motion second, all those in favor to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.